Hi guys, this is Renu, and I'm here to give you a coding workshop on unit testing and functional testing. Let's get started. So we're going to look at a small intro, then we're going to go through unit testing, functional testing, then tools, best practices, comparison. Let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to skip over why we need testing and some introduction because it's already taught in one of the lectures. So let's get started with unit testing. So first of all, what is unit testing? What is a unit? So unit testing means you create a test for a the smallest individual part of your program. That is a unit. That is why it's called unit testing. Let's try to understand from an example. You have a function def divide, which basically does a division. Numerator by denominator, you're returning the result. So imagine writing a unit test for this. So this is my function def test underscore divide underscore integer result. So it can have any name. Just you need to make sure it starts with a test underscore because uh, the tools pick up the functions which have test prefix, then run them. So look at this assert divide of 10 comma 2. So when I say divide of 10 comma 2, a simple function call statement is being executed. This function is called with 10 and 2. What happens here? 10 divided by 2, 5 is generated and then it is returned. So assert keyword lets you test if a condition in your code returns true. If it is not true, then it raises an error. That is an assertion error to be specific. So the division, whether it works or not for the normal case, this is an example of unit testing. Now, here's a question. Um, hmm, is this the only unit test we can write for this function? Can you think of any other unit tests? Can we do something like, can we pass a negative numerator, negative denominator, or divide by zero? Because as a tester thinks very differently compared to a developer, thinks of the corner cases mainly. So what happens when you divide two large numbers? What happens when you divide two negative numbers? Let's take a few examples. So you're gonna divide by two numbers and you're gonna get a decimal result. Is it working? This is one check. To divide a negative number, what is the result? There's another test. Divide when the numerator is zero, what happens? You get zero. That is one test. And here, when you divide by zero, what happens? And zero division error should be raised. Is that raising correctly? So these are such unit tests. So yeah. Now let's quickly try to put our heads together and try to understand what this unit test is. So, unit test is used to test the smallest piece of code. It can be a function, can be a class, anything. Smallest piece is referred to as unit. That is why it's called unit testing. And this runs in isolation, meaning you're not dependent on external data, external APIs, external things. Let's say you're dependent on some data which you see from OpenAI. You mock that response by hard coding it, or there are some methods where you can use, it's called fixtures. So you can hard code the data and use it for your unit testing so that you only test your individual code without any dependencies. Then, they're usually fast, less than 10 millisecond. Ideally, I mean, each individual test can be less than technically a second, depending on your function, what you write, and the time complexity it has. but it's usually not going to take a long time. So which means you can add this in your CI/CD pipeline and trigger it on every commit or every push or every pull request so that you know what you're pushing, but it's not breaking your existing code. Then last point is about white box orientation. Um, this means you are going in depth, you know internally how the function works based on that. You write a unit test. On the contrary, there is another kind of testing. It's called black box testing, where you treat the system as an unknown entity. You just give input and see what the output is. Um, so that is functional testing, which I'll come to it in the next slides. But here, you know everything about the function. And then unit tests are usually written by the developers themselves. So so that's called white box orientation, white box testing. Oh yeah, and this is a pyramid which I want to talk about. If you see here, uh, it's called the test pyramid. You have unit tests in the bottom, integration tests, end-to-end functional tests on top. So this is to show you how much efforts is needed, how much time each of the tests take. So integration testing is somewhat similar to functional testing. Functional testing is more um, comprehensive. It tests the system as a whole, and unit testing tests individual elements of a system. So functional testing gradually takes, I mean, definitely takes more time than unit testing, and yeah, it requires higher maintenance. Yeah. Now, we come to functional testing. So what exactly is functional testing? Um, Validate user her behavior, business flows. So it's used to test the entire system, the entire workflow, how it works. It treats the system as a black box and tests the functionality. It's much slower as a result. It's much slower, so you cannot easily add it in your CI/CD pipeline, trigger it every time you push. You can do daily tests, you can run daily tests, and it'll slow down if you add it in a CI/CD pipeline. This is going to detect integration issues, any configuration changes, whether your system, both front and back end, works together as a whole. Functional testing. Um, Here, I'll give you an example. So your review Selenium and pytest. Dev test, yes, can add item to the cart. Browser. So this is a test function, just like what we defined before. Test underscore your function name. And here is an interesting thing. This is syntax which you can just see and learn. Um, so I'll just explain you the syntax. Don't worry about the syntax. I want you to understand how to use the syntax and what it means so that um, even if you copy paste the syntax, you know what it is. Browser.getOff, this web address means you're actually using um, browser to navigate to this URL and load the page. Next step, find element by ID, just some ID name. So if you know HTML, browser.find element will look for that particular DOM object referenced by that ID. And dot click off is going to just click and perform an action. And then here is an assert of cart of one in browser.page source. Okay. So it's going to check if cart has been updated to one or not. That's all. It's very simple. So the difference between this and the previous one is just use the browser to check the entire functionality, not just the individual API. So some small differences. Unit testing, single function, functional testing, so whole workflow. Speed is in millisecond for unit testing. Functional testing is in matter of usually in minutes. Um, Frequency for NCI is every push you can do a unit test, but it's difficult to do that for functional testing. You can do it daily. Some of the tool examples for unit testing is pytest, JUnit. For functional tests, it's Selenium is widely used. Cypress is also there. So, yeah. Some of the testing best practices define clear acceptance criteria, automate critical user journeys, combine with regression testing or stability. What is regression testing? Is you're testing some of your designing mobile apps. The mobile apps, which if you're designing for Android, you design for one phone, won't work for the other phone. So regression testing is testing on all suitable platforms. Then review tests with the same rigor as production code. Um, so a lot of people don't give importance to tests, but it is necessary to give importance to tests. The same importance we give to production code because that's in the end that's what is going to save the day. Okay, let's go through the code. Okay, activated this. So this is a clone of, I mean, this is something inspired by Fortnite. I know a lot of you play this game. So, okay, so this is basically a shop or it gives you stats about the different weapons available in Fortnite game, like assault rifle, pump shotgun. So you can add it to your locker. So you have 1,000 V-Bucks available. You add it to your locker. You see the total increases. And yeah, you cannot add the same gun. Plus, yeah. Now you can remove the gun. Item is removed. You can clear it from the locker. It's all cleared. So this is the app. This is the functionality. Now we need to design unit tests for this. Let's look at uh, how to do. The first thing I want you to look at is when I load, what happens? There's some images loading. Fine. Now, when I click on add to locker, I mean, yeah, add to locker, what happens? There is a API/cart which fires with ID 1. Now, let's say I click on this, ID 3 is going. Okay, this is a response. Okay. So look at this. So there is a post request for API/cart which is going. It returns 201. You have a response added to cart. Then you're sending a GET request to the same API. You're getting a response of whatever is in the locker. Okay. Now I cleared one more API. It sends post for clear cart. So these are just APIs which are getting fired. You need to do unit testing, functional testing. So let's get started. Just a quick overview. Mm, so you have API weapons, API cart, which accepts both get and post, has different functionality for each. API cart clear, which is used to clear the cart. There's another API to remove the item. So let's just focus on simple API first for our test. Okay, this is going to be like the hello world of tests. So test index route, send a get request to the root URL, response is equal to client.get of slash, assert response dot status code is equal to 200. So you're asserting whether the response status code is 200. If it is 200, that means it's a success, otherwise it's a failure. Now I want you to do the similar thing for this function, test weapons API. Okay, the syntax is similar to this, just the API will change. Um, Test weapons API, look, come over here. Weapons API, this is the weapons API. And you just give response equal client.get of your weapons API, then assert response status code to 200. That's your first test. Simple. Second test, weapons API, once you get the response, you're checking that it is returning all the weapons just shown and is saved in this particular constant and this particular dictionary. Um, and you're checking if each weapon has an image. You're checking if individual things has the right data in it or not. This is based on if you just print out weapons, you can just test that out. So here, what I want you to do is send a GET request to cart API. So just like API weapons, we have cart API, verify the response status, pass the JSON data, verify it. If it is a list, I'm giving some tips here. Verify if the cart is empty. How do you verify if the cart is empty? Length is 0. Okay. Um, this is about the unit test. Functional test. Yeah, let me show you how to run this first of all. Okay, I'm just going to skip running it. Context of time, you basically run this command pytest in your activated environment. Uh, and now for the unit test, okay, I need to show you the unit test. Okay, I'm just run unit test. So it passed on the unit test. I'm going to run the functional test. Look what happens. My browser is opening. Um, it automatically clicks and adds things. Uh, okay, there's some error. Okay, let's try again running this test. What it does is it opens a browser. It actually does a test itself. Hmm. Oh yeah, you shouldn't scroll or move anything. That was my fault. So just run it, leave it as it is. It clicked on a few things. Okay. So I've just added an extra sleep so that it waits for a few seconds for the page to load and then does a test. Let's run it now. So it loads, wait for 3 seconds. It adds this to the locker. See here, it added one more thing to the thing to locker, and it removed an item from the locker. Yeah, that is a test. So you can run the same, and um, you can actually use this plugin called blazermeter to generate the test, whatever you want to do. Um, it'll download the script, just copy paste it and run it. I'll just show you in action. So many things open. Okay, okay, starting the recording. Come down, add SMG and heavy sniper and tactical shotgun. I delete, clear locker. Stop it. Now it is recorded. Click on save, Selenium only, Selenium Python, save. Have this, open it. So you can basically copy paste this element, this entire code, and then run it. It'll work. So this kind of uses the old version of Selenium, find element by ID. Instead, you will have to use this one, find element by ID, this syntax, and um, always add some sleep off so that things are loading before you click on the next element. Just copy paste this and run it. It should work. So that's all. That's all for the demo. Thank you.